Recently, I posted a challenge, and I wanted everybody who had seen this post on Facebook to send me their biggest stressor that's going on in their life, the thing that's causing them the most stress or the most anxiety. And what I wanted to do, was really a challenge to me, was to see how we could use the power of creativity to alleviate that problem, to make things better, to make these things not as stressful as they may seem, to solve the problem. And so what she wrote was, in response to the creativity and biggest stressors post, I'd have to say that my two biggest stressors are tied for first place. The first one is one that I think you'd find very common, and it's simply very limited income. The second is a controlling ex-husband who, since no longer being able to control my every move, has decided to try his best to do so via our two young sons. Both weigh heavily on my mind each day, and both are continuously bringing me unwanted stress. If you're able to provide creative solutions to both or either, it would be greatly appreciated. So there's a lot of stress here around money and keeping the lights on and providing for her children and being a great mother and giving them a life they never had and dealing with the controlling ex, and a lot of things that I think a lot of us would think were very, very stressful. I mean, I read this the first time I read it and I said, yeah, absolutely, I can see how this would be super, super stressful. So the challenge is this: how can we use the power of creativity, right? How can we tap into our innate creativity on demand to solve these challenges? So the first thing I really want to mention here is the role that creativity is already playing. You know, when people say they're not creative, this is one of the funniest things in the world to me, because we are creating with a capital C. We are creating day by day, moment by moment, minute by minute. And this person who sent these questions in, these stressors in, they've created certain stories around what these things mean. They've created interpretations. They've created explanations. They have, although this may be hard to hear, they have created the stress that is now debilitating them. And I don't know this because I'm a guru and because I know more than the person who sent this in. I know because it's the way it shows up in my life. When I'm stressed, when I'm anxious, when I'm feeling like things are out of control, or I'm overwhelmed, or I'm overcommitted, I now know that I'm the one who's creating that experience in my world. And so the first thing to really recognize here is to see that we create the level of stress that we're feeling in our lives based on the thoughts that we have in our heads that we're attaching to. The first step towards freedom from any of these big stressors, controlling husbands, issues with relationships with your spouse or your kids, stresses at work, issues about money, the first thing is to recognize the only reason you're feeling any stress around these things is because you have created, because you're so creative, we have created thoughts and stories in our heads that say that these things mean something more than they actually do. That's the entire reason that I created the Not So Serious Life with Steve Chandler, is to really have us see that if we don't take our thoughts so seriously, if we don't attach to them and make them bigger than they are, then they don't have to rule us. We can notice that by simply not taking the thoughts seriously that pop in our head, we're a lot closer to freedom than we are when we really attach to these things, and when we can really take some ownership of that and see that we're creating that experience, not out of blame and shame and guilt, but as a way to see, oh, I'm in control of my freedom, and it starts with my thinking. So here's the thing about creativity when we talk about problem solving. When a lot of people hear creative problem solving, being creative, and even with our event coming up, Creativity on Demand, a lot of people are thinking that what they're going to come and find out is ways to be creative in their actions and their doing, which absolutely will happen. That's definitely a part of it. But there's a creativity in your being that comes before the creativity in your doing. Creativity is not just a way to solve a problem, it's a way to solve the creation of problems. And that probably sounds like complete double talk gobbledygook, but what I'm saying is by being creative, we can actually see, based on our interpretations or our explanations of the situations going on, we can head off the problem before it becomes a problem by being creative. And we can see where being creative about the interpretation of the event that's happening, seeing the truth behind it, seeing the reality behind it, seeing what's really going on and not blowing it up into something more than it is, can actually be a huge, amazing, effective use of creativity in solving your problems. Because think about it, if you use creativity and you're able to see that what you thought was a problem was not actually a problem, what else is there to do? So we can either try to attack a problem head on, or we can approach the problem, we can relate to the problem in a way where the problem is no longer a problem, where the situation is no longer problematic. So if we can really slow this down and only work with our thoughts, work with our mind, work with our business, instead of leaking and wasting all this energy being in somebody else's business, trying to figure out why they're doing what they're doing, trying to get them to change, trying to mold and manipulate and modify the people and situations around us, instead of taking real personal responsibility, exhibiting self-leadership, and instead changing our own thoughts. When we focus on those other things outside of us, we stress and we struggle and we look for a solution to fix those things, instead of looking at the place where we really get the most benefit, and it's inquiring and challenging the thoughts that we have, the stories that we've created around these things that are happening in our world. What I would invite you to do, anybody watching this video, is the next time you have something stressful going on in your life, and maybe you have some of these same situations that this person wrote in about, maybe you're having some issues with your kids, or with a spouse, or with an ex-spouse, or in business, or in making money, and you're feeling like it's weighing you down and stressing you out, the first thing that I would invite you to do is to really slow things down and really zoom out. And when I say zoom out, you know, like on your phone, I don't have my phone handy, you know, like on your phone, if you're looking at a map and you double tap and you can zoom in, but if you double tap again, it'll zoom back out. I want you to zoom back out from the situation, right? Picture yourself, really sit with and meditate on you being in a situation with somebody who is difficult to work with. For this person who wrote in, maybe she's sitting there and talking to her ex-husband and having an argument, or an argument is starting to bubble up about something with the kids. And now she's not on the rugby field where it's violent and knock down and drag out. She's zoomed out. She's in the stands where it's safe. It doesn't matter what the ex-husband says. It doesn't matter what his motives are, because we can't possibly know what his motives are. Even if he tells us, I'm doing this because I want to get back at you, we don't even know if that's true. How many times in your life have you said you were angry about one thing, but really you were angry about something else, whether you knew it or you didn't know it? So instead of wasting time, again, being in this other person's business, trying to figure out their motives or trying to manipulate them or anything else, what if we can look at that situation for exactly what it is, seeing the reality of what you're facing right now? So when you're talking to somebody and they're maybe raising their voice or getting upset, see the reality that this is a human being who's dealing with whatever they're dealing with, and they happen to be speaking in a louder tone than you expected. They happen to be using words that are not the words that you would have hoped they would have used. That's the reality of the situation. They're not disrespecting you. They're not making you inferior. They're not controlling your life. They're not doing any of these things to you. That's your job. Only you can do those things to yourself. And when I can slow down and be in this place of compassion, and I can see they're just a human being that's doing the absolute best they can, given what they know and given what they believe. If I can really see that, then I'm free. I don't have to fix the problem of my ex trying to control my life, because that's my job. I can take back control of my life in the way that I relate to my ex and the way I relate to what my ex says. You remember what that feels like for you? Have you ever lashed out at somebody or said something that you didn't mean, said something that was hurtful because in that moment you just felt like that's what you needed to do? Did that feel good to you to do that? Probably not. So have compassion that somebody else is in a position that you have once been in yourself. There is nothing you've been through in your life that you haven't had the strength and the courage and the power to make it through, because you are here right now. And all these things that are happening in your life, whether it's with your spouse or your job or your kids or anything else, they're just conditions of the game. You choose how you want to play that game. You know what happens? We recapture all of this creative energy. We recapture our innate courage, our innate loving nature, our innate playfulness, our innate high spirit. And all of a sudden we see options in other parts of our lives that we didn't know were possible to solve anything that's still left. You know, when you're in this lighter, more playful, high-spirited place, it is easier to take action, to take purposeful, intentional, productive action. So I hope this has been helpful for you, and I'd love to hear your comments below. What really resonated with you? What here that you heard really sounds like truth to you? What are you going to take away from this and actually try in your world? Because listening to me say it, that doesn't change your life. What changes your life is you taking this information and making it into transformation.